welcome back to Green Mountain Mornings on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters, 23 minutes past the top of the hour. And I want to welcome back my guest, Randy Holhut from the Commons. Hey there, Randy.
Hello again.
Hello again. And I want to remind listeners that this segment of Green Mountain Mornings is being filmed by BCTV. We'll be online later. And broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight is sponsored by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. So, Randy, what are your thoughts on the Windham County Senate race for this primary? Do you think the incumbents will have it, or do you think the newbie Wayne Vernon Esty has a shot?
Well, we know the power of incumbency in Vermont.
Yes.
And this is Becca and White. Becca Ballant, our Senate Majority Leader, and Jeanette White, was the Senate Rules Committee, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair.
And
haven't done anything to really warrant them being replaced.
This is true.
It's a nice little warm-up exercise for Jeanette and Becca, but notice the Republicans aren't challenging.
No, they aren't. Yeah, this is definitely one of those races. Well, the West Brattleboro race, too, between Emily Kornheiser and Valerie Stewart. These are races that, unless there's an upset through a write-in, basically whoever wins the primary will be it in the general election.
Yeah, the other race that will be in the fall, assuming that's one person, maybe two or three, probably a lot more, and Vernon writing Patrick Gilligan's name.
Yep.
So Sarah Coffey will have her opponent for the Windham 1 seat.
Right, in the general election. Yeah.
And but that's about it for contested races. The Republican Party really didn't have much luck recruiting candidates around the state.
Why do you think that was?
What do you think is going on with the Republican brand these days?
Well, I know nationally what's happening with it, but what about, do you think the state-level GOP is starting to be tarnished?
Yeah. You can't help that, and but be tarnished if you identify as a Republican, and this is what the party looks like at the national level, and some of it's slowly seeping in. Look at the $1 million that Phil Scott just got for his campaign from the Republican Governors Association, which the Koch brothers, among others, are major funders.
Right.
The Democratic race for governor, however, will be quite interesting to watch, because this is one of those races that anything could really happen in this. You probably would give right now the edge to Christine Hallquist, because she has a professional campaign staff and she has access to the Democratic Party voter lists and access to the Democratic Party headquarters down in Burlington.
That's
true. A big advantage if you're running for a statewide office.
Right. Well, and the thing about having an organized campaign as well is it does, I think, subconsciously signal voters that you're able to lead a team, and therefore you're able to lead an administration. I think it kind of signals that as well. Yeah,
they're doing a lot of door knocking and phone calling and get out the vote, because, considering this is going to be a pathetically low turnout on Tuesday. If it cracks 20%, I'll be very surprised.
Okay.
And a lot of other people will be too. But in a low turnout primary in the middle of August, getting your people out to the polls is how you win the election.
Yeah.
Brenda Siegel, our local candidate,
yes,
seems to be the flavor of the hour for the Bernie-crats.
Yes.
The Democrats that were all in the Bernie's campaign last year, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's definitely coming in as a progressive with her policy stances and what she has to say. James Ehlers was their previous big time love affair, but he's faded.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's little Ethan Sonborn.
Yes.
Who, he's got a lot of plays for 14, but he's 14.
Well, he could have a long term that way. I mean, think about all the times he could be elected before he wanted to retire.
And then there's John Rogers, who's from the Northeast Kingdom and a House member who's running as a protest candidate for all the gun people who were upset with Phil Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's running the write-in.
As a write-in, so, a five-way race. Good luck.
One thing I have to say about Christine Hallquist that impressed me, I interviewed her yesterday.
Yes.
On the show, and it was in that first 8 o'clock hour slot where we have the 5-minute talk break, the commercials, and then the 8-minute talk break. Yep. And I always feel that isn't used very well. So I said, hey, Christine, I want to experiment. I want to record an interview while everyone else is hearing commercials. I want us to keep talking and record an interview. But I've never done this before technically, so bear with me. This might be a complete train wreck or not. Are you game to be the guinea pig? And Christine's like, yeah, sure, why not? Why not? And I have to give her a little credit for that, because so often when I interview candidates, especially at the upper echelons for state races like governor or lieutenant governor, they're working so hard to control every little second. And Christine is like, you know what? I love the press. We need more people at the table for democracy. Just whatever you want to ask me, go for it. And I have to say that impressed me. I do not always get that type of flexibility from candidates.
And hopefully she won't be corrupted if she gets elected.
We always hope for that, yes. Hey, Randy and I have to go to break. Here is Natalie Knowles with your local news. Don't touch that dial, because Randy and I will be right back. This is Green Mountain Mornings, and we are on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters, and I am speaking with Randy Holhut from the Commons. How you doing, Randy?
It's Friday.
It's Friday. I'm so glad. I was reading through Brenda Siegel's her education plan this morning, and it was clear to me that I was way overtired as I was reading through it, because she kept talking about this ethic studies standard, and I couldn't understand. It wasn't making sense to me, and then I realized she was talking about ethnic studies standard. Yeah, it's not a good day for the little mildly dyslexic brain.
Oh, you mean the letters were doing their Rockettes routine on the page again?
They were, with their little shadings and changing color and
1, 2, 3, kick. 1, 2, 3, kick.
Yes, never a dull moment for the slightly neurally atypical. Randy, did you make it up to the Wayside in Montpelier or Berlin
on the border between the two.
Did you make it for their 100th anniversary?
No, I did not. I was there slightly before that when I had to go up with Joyce to take pictures for Vermont Business Magazine story for Beth Pierce. Mm-hmm. Now she's using that as a lure to get me to go do stories where they'll take you to the Wayside.
Oh, that is quite the thing. For those who have never been to the Wayside, and you're probably like, why would we care about a restaurant up near the State House? It's because it's really yummy food with these crazy delicious desserts, and it's sort of the hangout for a lot of folks in the State House.
Well, it's the kind of thing that, in terms of the food, it's kind of like the Chelsea Royal in terms of its history, except It's been continuously operated at the same location for 100 years, which very few restaurants in America can say that.
Yes.
They do their own baking. They make their own ice cream. They do the various Vermont delicacies, although not all the time in the menu, like salt pork and gravy. They only do that once a week.
Yes. Their prime rib is pretty good, too.
Yeah, and their pies are most excellent, particularly their maple cream.
Yeah.
But the other thing, too, which Brattleboro eateries could take note of, their prices are reasonable, too.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
Extremely reasonable. Yes. That's one thing when I do have to go up to the State House, I usually make a stop at the Wayside.
Because it'd be really nice if someone the Chelsea Royal is probably the closest to that in terms of just traditional American food and cooked simply and served with a minimum of fuss. And I'm always a sucker for a good diner.
Yeah, and it's a real family diner place.
Well, they even have the retired numbers of the wait staff that were there. For the senior people have retired.
Yes, I forgot about that. So there's your tip, folks. If you're heading out this weekend and you're heading north, make sure you stop at the Wayside. And they did just celebrate their 100th anniversary, so that is worth celebrating. Well,
they also put out a new book to go with it. It's Worth a Ride to the Wayside. And it's kind of a celebration of their 100th anniversary, and also has some of their recipes in there too. So you go to your favorite local bookstore, and they'll could possibly get you a copy too. Or when you go up to the Wayside, pick one up.
That is a good tip. Thank you, Randy. Okay, I'm going to shift gears quite dramatically.
Yes.
Let's talk about the editorial that Jeff wrote for the paper this week.
Yes, that was a tough one. He really was agonizing over that, and I understand you were helping him with that.
Or causing him more anxiety, one or the other.
Yeah. He didn't talk much to me, only because I'm not as conciliatory as he is. I find the need to understand the zipperhead that wrote the graffiti on the sidewalk or was putting up the posters. I just want to smack him upside the head for doing something that really is so un-American, so offensive, and so wrong. On so many levels that it gets me angry.
Well,
so I don't share the same level of conciliatory feelings that Jeff does. I'm speaking as Randy Holhut, not as editor.
I understand that, but
as Randy Holhut, I'm not in a conciliatory mood.
Well, and I think it's really interesting because you call it conciliatory. I think he would call it compassionate.
Yeah, and there's to me there's just some things that I think there's no you don't compromise on. I think there was a time when we all agreed Nazis bad. And there are 300,000 crosses in cemeteries around the globe of at least two members of my extended families who are under those crosses, or Stars of David, who gave their lives fighting this twisted ideology. And that's what gets me mad.
Right.
I'm trying to avoid using words that would cause you to use the Daryl button.
Yes, let's avoid the Daryl button today. Thank you.
But it's just But for all the talk of hate has no home here in Brattleboro, and we know it does.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is all over America. It's just kind of, an infection that's unresponsive to the antibiotic called love, compassion, truth, justice, diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Those antibiotics don't seem to work against the really virulent levels of hate that seem to be out in the open now, where they used to be just kind of coded and secret handshakey kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Right. So after reading Jeff's column, knowing that this is how you feel, Jeff said the community needs to ask itself some uncomfortable questions. What's your takeaway? Do you think the community will listen, or do you think the community
this is the
shouldn't?
type of thing that I would like to think that most people, when you are kind,
Mm-hmm.
when they see injustice, they'll stand up against it.
Mm-hmm.
When they see a wrong, they'll try to right it. And I like to think there are far more, people like that than there are the dirtbags that would put up Nazi posters and scroll offensive crap on the sidewalk.
There are more people who are leaning towards kindness. I firmly believe that.
And that's it. But it's hard to reason with somebody who wants to kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And given my status personally working in a job that I'm quite proud to be working in,
Mm-hmm.
who some would like me dead for that.
Yes.
Or some would like me dead because I'm married to a Jew and I have another family member who converted to Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Or some would like me dead because I have a Harvard degree and I represent the establishment.
Right.
Or some would like me dead because I'm may not be as quite as Christian as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And some would like me dead just because they'd like me dead.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people you just try not to compassion can. It's hard to see that, but Jeff's a far better person than I am. Jeff is a far better person than I am, and he's kind and compassionate, and I tend to be a little more not so kind and compassionate on matters such as this.
But that's as an editing team, that's one of the strengths of the Commons, though, is that you balance each other very well.
Well, that's the kumbaya, damn it.
Yeah. Yep, the kumbaya. I call it the kumbaya, damn it team.
Yeah.
I do.
Because this is such a stain on America. What we're seeing all around the country, from to kind of turning being a person of color into a crime.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, then I'm going to stop you there, Randy, only in the interest of time. Given how you feel,
yeah,
and given what has happened in the community recently,
yeah,
how do we move forward as a community then? Like, how do we deal with the fact that there are people in our community who would write offensive things on the sidewalk or try to align themselves with a hate group?
To call them out anytime they do this, and stand up and say no,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is not acceptable. This is not right. This is a crime against humanity.
Now, I would argue that as a community, there are a number of people who are doing that.
Yes, there are.
It doesn't seem to be working, so...
Well, you have to You have to do a little more of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel, what do you see as the Commons role in
The
standing
Commons
up?
role in this is to make sure that, we did the Voices section at its best airs everybody's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There are things in that section that I would never put into a section if I were the editor.
Because it's not damn it enough?
Not damn it enough. But that's Jeff's prerogative to do that, and I've used to put together the editorial page of the Brattleboro Reformer for 6 years, and wrote the main editorial 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So there was far more damn it on the pages, I think, and but that was my feeling.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Randy and I have to go to break, but I shall return after the commercial break. And a lot to ponder, a lot to think about. Hopefully, this will generate more information for the Voices section and the
Well, the
comments.
answer is more pie.
More pie. There you go.
More pie. Go up the wayside, get some maple cream pie.